Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So I just have a little bit of an experiment with the timer there. I need to do another introduction video. I've not put an introduction video on for a while, but anyway, I hope you're all well. How are you all? Happy Easter Saturday. So we're right in the throes of Easter. I think it's Saturday today. You know, Easter's a bit like Christmas, isn't it? If you have some time off, you sort of forget what day you're on. But anyway, I hope you're enjoying it, whether you are a person of faith who believes in sort of the traditions of Easter, or whether you're just enjoying your Easter eggs, or just enjoying the holiday, or whatever. I hope you're all well. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Those are the free ways you can help my channel. I want to say a big thank you to those of you who go that little bit further, become members. The members are the mainstay of my channel. Thank you so much for that. Thank you to those of you who have bought me Ko-Fis, sent super stickers, PayPal me, email me, left nice messages, all those extra things that people do that helps my channel. Thank you. And yeah, to like, subscribe, and leave a comment is a really good way, free way of helping this channel. And it just ups the algorithm. Apparently, I don't understand the algorithm. I don't record my videos to try and attract the algorithm. I just record videos about cases that I find interesting. And, I have noticed that sometimes if you just stick to one case and stick with it, you get more into the algorithm. But, I like to report different cases as well from all over the world. Speaking of which, let me take my banner off actually. Now I've thanked everybody. Speaking of which, this case, very interesting case. It's we were all intrigued, weren't we? And a lot of you on my channel from wherever you are in the world followed me when I was covering the case of the mushroom murderess, good old Erin Patterson, who has received a 33-year minimum term in prison that she is appealing from, and that was an Australian case. And it intrigued us because that was the case of a woman inviting her extended family or ex-extended family over for lunch at her house and poisoning them all with death cap mushrooms that she'd foraged, putting them in the sauce of the coating of the beef Wellington that she'd prepared that day for lunch. And I think we were all completely intrigued by this. It's the complete callousness of it, isn't it? It's the thought of the planning that goes into it. I mean, all murders are bad, of course. Killing anybody is a bad thing. Sometimes people, it's in a fit of rage, or people are at the end of their tether because people have been so horrible to them, or I don't know. We can always, or we can usually sort of think, yes, that's terrible what they did, but there's a motive behind it. I think Erin's murder of her 4 ex-in-laws, 2 ex-in-laws and 2 of their friends, is especially chilling because they hadn't really done anything wrong to her. There was, apart from not treated her with the respect that she thought she was deserved, because, Erin Patterson, she's the queen bee, isn't she? She thinks she is it. She is, let's just put, I've got a picture here of her somewhere. This is the mural that was put up in Australia. Yeah, what can I say about Erin? It seems to be just pure spite why Erin did this horrible thing. That's the only picture I've got. Oh no, I've got another picture of her loaded up here. Oops, pressed hide again. Yeah, this picture was taken of Erin as she was taken off to serve her sentence. This was a picture taken by the paparazzi as she was in the back of the van. You can, she doesn't look so happy there as she did, when she was trying to bamboozle the jewelry. Anyway, basically, I think this the whole mushroom murderess trial was so uh, disturbing, so intriguing. Sometimes things that are very disturbing, they're also intriguing, aren't they? That is just, the human condition. We're curious. We want to know, especially when people go outside the norm. We want to know why they've done it. We want to understand it. I think it's almost like self protection. We feel like if we could understand why somebody did something so terrible, um, that might help protect us in the future or whatever. That this is what they say about people are intrigued with true crime, and they always have been. It's not just a modern thing. For years and years ago, penny dreadfuls, would give us. These are Erin's victims. We must remember them, of course. Every time we talk about Erin, we must remember them because they're the most important. You've got Don and his wife Gail, who died sadly, and then Gail's sister Heather, who also died, and her husband Ian there on the right hand side, who thankfully survived, and he was instrumental. His testimony was instrumental in convicting Erin, wasn't it? So thank God he survived. But he went through, he had to have a transplant. It took him a long, long time to recover from the effects of those terrible death cap mushrooms that Erin had put into the beef Wellington. Now, she, of course, is appealing her conviction, but as far as I'm concerned, she's guilty. She was found guilty. The evidence was overwhelming, and I hope her appeal goes absolutely nowhere. So, it intrigues us, and as I say, it always has. We've always been intrigued as human beings for whatever reason, intrigued by true crime. We have this sort of love-hate relationship with these twonks, really, because it's more hate than love, of course, but it's not love-hate in the sense of we love them. It's that we like to hear about these stories because we enjoy it. I mean, when I say enjoy it, it's like it's not, enjoy is not the right word, is it? We are interested in them, these stories. We're like shocked and horrified, but there's an intrigue as well. We just can't help it. If once you become interested in true crime, it is addictive, and you never watch drama series in the same way again. Crime drama series, because true crime is stranger than fictional crime, and there's nothing that you could put into a fictional story about crime that you could not find 10 or 20 times worse in real true crime, real things that people have done and have happened. So I think that's our fascination with it. And so, of course, Erin's trial, Erin's case, or her crime, was especially sort of, there was Erin is on the surface, this sort of almost mousy, housewifey type, financially secure, so no financial reasons for this crime. She had nothing to gain financially from it. Um, it just seemed to be out of so intrigued with her. So she's like this, she was described as sort of this middle class housewifey, mumsy type, two young children, and we couldn't understand why she'd done this to her in-laws, but it seems to be out of spite towards her ex-husband Simon. But anyway, only Erin knows why she did it. All we know now is that she did do it. So there's a case that's come up. So the reason I'm mentioning Erin at all is, there's a case now come up in Italy, of all places, and that's what we're going to look at, where a mother and her daughter were killed or died. They died. First of all, it wasn't known that it was a murder, a bit like Erin's, really. Erin's case. A mother and her daughter, well, the whole family, or the mother, the daughter, and the father sat down to dinner round about Christmas time. And Two of them are dead. The mother and the daughter developed symptoms not unlike the symptoms that Erin's victims developed. Vomiting, diarrhea, typical symptoms of food poisoning, and were admitted to hospital. They were then discharged from hospital, and but then their symptoms re-emerged or came back with a vengeance, and then they died. This mother and her daughter died. The father survived, and then it was found in the forensics afterwards, because initially it was just treated as an unfortunate case of severe food poisoning, because of course these things do happen, don't they? But then forensic testing showed that they probably were murdered with ricin or ricin. I'm not even sure how you pronounce it, which you may or may not have heard of. And we're going to look at what ricin is, how it works. And now there's a full-blown murder investigation into the deaths of this mother and her daughter, and the possible attempted, murder investigation, and the possible attempted murder of their father. So this is their family all together. I'm going to go through all their names and where this happened when I get into it. And the only person who was not affected by this event is this daughter. So this couple had two daughters. This daughter sadly has died, as has the mother. The father has survived, and the other daughter was not at the dinner, but is thought to be instrumental to the case. That's the words that I saw used in an article. So we'll make of that what you will, but somebody, it looks like, poisoned these people at a family dinner. So that's what we're going to look at. What is ricin or ricin? How common is poisoning? That's just intriguing me at the moment. You just wonder how many people are poisoned. Probably a lot of the time we don't even get to know that they've been poisoned, because if it's not picked up by, the medical staff, like it was with Erin, luckily death cap poisoning was suspected very early on, wasn't it? If not, would Erin have got away with it? It's thought that she'd already got away with the attempted poisoning of her husband twice, or at least twice, if not three times. One time he was in hospital in intensive care. So, of course, it wasn't picked up then that he'd been poisoned. But thankfully, when Erin poisoned Don and Gail and Heather and Ian, the medical staff at the hospital were very, very quick, weren't they, to diagnose what the actual problem was. So that's what we're going to talk about. First of all, let's have a look at who's in the chat, who's brave enough to come into the chat. Hello, lovely workers. Thank you for watching. Happy Easter to everybody. Happy Easter to Replay crew. Thank you for watching. And let's have a look who's brave enough to come into the chat. Who's around on this Easter Saturday morning? Hi, Marg. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, you're working on Easter Sunday, Marg. You're going to get some chocolate eggs to take into work. Don't forget some for us. I haven't even had a hot cross bun. It's just the shop where you have to go to buy them, the English supermarket. It's just a little bit of a distance away, that's all. It just can't be. Now today and tomorrow I don't have to drive because my son's not working, so I won't feel like driving anywhere really. I mean, I haven't even got any chocolate. I'm not a chocolate lover, to be honest, so it's not my favorite thing, put it that way. And then, to buy Easter eggs, and that costs you a fortune, doesn't it, for a tiny bit of chocolate? So hi, Heather, good morning, happy Easter. Yeah. Oh, look, there's a lid. Hi, Lily, happy Easter. A lot of chatting going on in the chat. Hello, Michelle. Good morning from England. Happy Easter to you. So yeah, quite fancy a hot cross bun now that we've been talking about it, but I don't really know where to get one locally because, of course, I'm here in Spain. So anyway, it's a beautiful day. Just to waffle a little bit, only a tiny bit. It's a beautiful day. It's a bit chilly in the mornings as it is, but it's 15 degrees. It's going to be about 22 degrees. So I'll be getting some sun later, hopefully. So I'm looking forward to that. So, okay, so let's have a look at this case. So, where did it take place? So, it's took place in Italy, in Pietra. Oh, do you know, I can pronounce Spanish, but my everything else, forget it. So, Pietra Catella. I don't know if, apologies to anybody who's Italian out there, Italian speakers. It's in Pietra Catella, which is a small municipality 260 kilometers southeast of Rome. So let's just have a look before we start properly talking about the story, where this has taken place. So it's a tiny village. I think more things happen in small villages sometimes, don't they? It reminds me of Miss Marple, in St. Mary's Mead, or Midsummer Murders. I know they're not real, but, even little villages, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a big city for a murder to take place, does it? It can happen anywhere. And sometimes, oh, that's the wrong one that I'm trying to share. Sometimes see things simmer in little villages, don't they? Resentments, neighbours disputes, those kind of things. There you go. I think it should come up now. Yeah, so here it is. This is Italy, of course, the boot of Italy, unmistakable, isn't it? Here's Rome, the capital here. And if I zoom in to this place, here it is. Pietrafella, where's it gone? I'm not very good with maps. Anyway, it's here. It's not that far from the capital. Now, I've never been to Italy, so I'd like to go to Italy. I don't know, if I ever went to Italy, I'll probably go to one of these little villages rather than to the capital. Capital, of course, like all capital cities, is very expensive, isn't it? But I would like to go to Italy. Italian and Spanish, the languages are very, very similar. And although I can't speak Italian, I couldn't put a sentence together in Italian, but I can understand when people are speaking Italian because it's so similar to Spanish. Yeah, so I would like to go. Have any of you ever been to Italy? And what did you think of it? Are the people nice, friendly, or not? I don't know. You think of places that you go abroad, and sometimes the people are friendlier than others. And are they receptive to you if you don't speak Italian? Because it's like in France, they like you to speak French, don't they? And perfect French if possible. Whereas I think in Spain they're quite accepting of people who don't really speak Spanish, at least if they make an effort. So I don't know. I've never been to Italy, so I don't know anything about sort of what the people are like there. And I expect the people in a little town like Pietra Catella, they'll be different from the people in Rome, just like people in London are different from the people in the rest of the UK. People who live in capital cities are different from people who live out in the country, aren't they? So even if they are in the same country, even if it's a small country. So yeah, I don't know if any of you know this area at all or know Italy at all. but this is where it's taken place. And it's gaining in, what's the word? You know, it started off, I saw it quite a few days ago, and I thought, oh, I'm going to do a video about that. That reminds me of Erin Patterson and that situation. And then before I'd had a chance to make the video, because I've only just getting a chance to make the video today, it started coming out on the Australian news about it, and they were comparing it to Erin Patterson. And then now I noticed it's on the BBC, it's on CNN. You know, it's one of those cases that has gained traction, you know, that people are intrigued with. Mysterious cases, I think, will always hold people's attention. And because this started off as just really, well, it would have been a nothing burger as far as, you know, national or international news was concerned. Even though, of course, it's you know, a terrible thing. Even if it wasn't a crime, it'd be an awful thing that's happened. But at first, it was just thought of to be, you know, an unfortunate food poisoning incident. So, yeah, a couple of people have been to Italy here that are in the chat by the sound of it. Italian people friendly. Oh yeah, you've got a lot of Italian people in Australia, haven't you? Yeah, I remember reading about that because it was that guy. Oh, there's been that case recently of a guy who's been extradited from Italy, a murderer, a cold case from ages ago. So big Italian contingency there in contingent there in Australia. So where's Heather off to today? Where she says, where are you off to? Heather's always off somewhere. And she's going to see steps. Is that where you're going? Heather, I can't find it back in the chat now. But anyway, have a good time. Heather's always off to some show. You're our thespian amongst us, aren't you? The one, the culture vulture. Okay, so let's have a look. So I'll say it started off. It was just thought to be an unfortunate incident. I mean, food poisoning happens, doesn't it? People do get food poisoning. But it is now a murder inquiry. So, Italian Christmas meal tragedy turns into a murder inquiry. And this is the mother, and this is Antonella. Antonella, again, I'll probably butcher the pronunciation, sorry. Antonella is that Elsie? I'll just call her Antonella. I think I can get my mouth around that. Okay. So this is the mother. And I think she's 50. Yeah, 50 years old. They're too young, you know, very young. And if this is a murder, who did it? Who did it? Who would want to kill? Now, I've been looking into poisoning cases. And it is normally friends or family. Friends are the most likely to poison you. Friends first, then family. And very rare for a stranger to poison a stranger. So, yeah, interesting, isn't it? And I'm just wondering, as I say, I've heard of quite a few cases of poisoning, but they're not that common, apparently. They account for less than 5% of homicides are done by poisoning. But there's all sorts of different things are used to poison people, aren't there? So we saw with Erin, it was the death cap mushrooms. Here it's ricin, which we're going to look at what ricin is. And ricin is an agent. It's a natural agent that's found in castor beans, apparently. And it's used, but it's been used in like So I hope I'm back. Oh my God. You know what? You never make it as a famous YouTuber in Spain. It's just electric. There's absolutely no reason why it popped off then. Just literally, the electric just went off for 1 second and then came back on. But then, in that 1 second that it's off, the internet's off for 1 second, everything wipes off. Everything wipes off. I have to come back in, go back into the studio. I have to reload everything. So sorry, I've got to just reload the images. Actually, let me hear on the media assets. Oh, I've got them on the media assets, so I don't need to reload them, hopefully. Let's see, there is another one I want to put. Yeah, so just so irritating. It's so irritating. Absolutely no reason why. And it's literally pops off, comes back on in a second. I've forgotten what I was saying when I went off. So yeah, so I showed you the place anyway. I showed you the place where it's happened, and I think I was reading you the BBC article. So let's have a look at that again. So if it goes off again, just bear with me. I'll come back as soon as I can. But you know, this is sadly what it's like living in Spain. The electric seems to go off whenever it feels like it, and yeah, it just interrupts your stream completely. So let's go back to what we were saying. So yeah, this family that live in this little village in Italy, and it seems like a couple of you have been to Italy. Everyone's saying positive things about it. So Italian prosecutors have opened a murder investigation following the deaths of a mother and her teenage daughter after a pre-Christmas meal last year. And Sarah DeVita, 15, and her mother, Antonella Di Elsi, 50. So a poor 15-year-old girl and a 50-year-old woman fell ill after a lunch in their hometown of Pietracatella, a small municipality 161 miles southeast of Rome. And Sarah's father, Gianni, that's a very popular Italian word. Now, many, many years ago, when I was 14 or 15, I think people of my era, my age, do you remember that back in the day, it was very popular to have pen friends from different countries? And when I was at school, I had several pen friends. I had a pen friend from France. I had a pen friend from Italy. He was called Gianni. That's what's making me think of this. And I had a pen friend from Korea. Was it Korea? It was an Asian country, like not China, not Hong Kong. I think it was Korea. Was Korea then? Would it have been not North and South Korea? Would it have just been Korea? Or maybe I'm thinking of it. Anyway, I had several pen friends. Because what happened at my school, and I'm sure other people's schools in that era, we had this pen friend club, and they would give us all these, our teachers would let us know people who were looking for pen friends from other countries, etc. This was the equivalent of social media then, wasn't it? You didn't need social media. You used to write letters. I wonder if I've still got the letters anywhere. I might have. I do tend to keep things like that, but I'm not sure. I did lose quite a lot of stuff when I moved to Spain, and it may be that my pen friend's letters were in there. But I had a pen friend from Italy, from Palermo, which is actually Sicily, isn't it? I think. And I never went over to visit him, sadly, but he was a very handsome boy. I remember that. He sent me quite a few presents through the post from Italy. He sent me a lovely carriage. But you know what? By the time it arrived to my house in Manchester, it was like a a gypsy carriage, sort of wooden carriage. And I don't know what the Royal Mail had done with it, or the Italian Mail, somebody. It was broken into a load of small pieces. So it just been, maybe he hadn't wrapped it up properly, safe for transit, or put the label on saying, delicate or whatever. I don't know, but it was heartbreaking. I opened this package, I'm all excited, and there's just a load of broken bits in it from this, but you could see there it had been like an almost traditional sort of wooden carriage thing. Anyway, so that's been my only experience really with Italians. And of course, then as you get older, you stop writing, don't you? Bit by bit, you start. Probably by the time I got to be 16, I was going out, and socialising and stuff. But yeah, pen friends were very popular in those times, weren't they? If you're of that age and you remember it. And it was good. It was like the equivalent now of Snapchat, or what's the ones the young people use? I don't know, Instagram, etc. So we would actually write to each other. So yeah, good times really, because you've got something physical. Like I used to love getting letters. Did you used to love getting letters? I dread it when the postman comes now, because the only thing the postman ever brings are bills and final demands. Or, there's no good news comes through the post anymore, is there? So they fell ill. So this poor, unfortunate mother and daughter fell ill after a lunch in their hometown of Pietracatella, a small municipality 161 miles southeast of Rome. And Sarah's father, Gianni, that's why I started that bit of waffle, wasn't it? He's the former mayor of the town. So straight away when you hear that, you think, is there any political motive of somebody being poisoned? So he was also taken to hospital, but he recovered. And their eldest daughter was not there that day. Now, not in this article, but in another article I was reading, it definitely said that this is being taken into consideration during the investigation. So I don't know whether that was supposed to cast shade on the oldest daughter, or a lot of people are going to look at, of course, Gianni, because he was there, like Erin was there at the lunch that she had for her in-laws and their friends. Sometimes then you're going to be looking at the person who was also there but recovered, had milder symptoms but recovered. Anyway, doctors initially attributed the symptoms to food poisoning, but the new focus comes after laboratory tests revealed the presence of a deadly poison, ricin, Italian media say, even though police do not have a suspect. Doctors were said to have thought the infection originated from either fish or mushrooms. Do you know, I've stopped eating mushrooms now again, not because of this, but to be honest, I've never enjoyed mushrooms as much as I used to enjoy them since covering the Death Cat mushrooms case. And then I've read up about mushrooms, and I love the taste of them. I love them because I'm not really a big meat eater, so I like mushrooms are like meaty, aren't they? But vegetables, if you like. And but no, I haven't got back into mushrooms the same. I stopped eating them for a while after Erin's case, when I was covering Erin's case, and then I went back to eating them. I thought, oh no, I'm going to eat things that I like. But I've never enjoyed them the same as I used to enjoy them. Anyway, you wouldn't expect, or I certainly wouldn't expect, food poisoning to come from mushrooms. Until I did the Erin Patterson trial, and now this is saying that doctors thought the infection originated from mushrooms, fish or mushrooms. I would never expect that. So yeah, mushrooms are a bit off my menu at the moment. And that fish, I love fish. So, but yeah, you've got to be careful, of course, with anything you eat. Haven't you got to be careful that it's in date, not let things go too far out of date. And you know, the dates are always very cautious, aren't they? But especially, I think is vegetables is one thing. If you leave it, or yogurts and things like that, there are things that you can leave to go out of date, and it doesn't matter so much. But meat and fish and things, you've got to be very careful. So anyway, they thought it was from fish or mushrooms. So doctors discharged the mother and daughter after they went to hospital. However, their symptoms quickly worsened and the pair were soon readmitted. Gosh. Now it's so similar to what happened to those poor victims in the mushroom murders case, because liver failure occurred. Now that's exactly what happened with Dawn and Gail and Heather and Ian, isn't it? Because death cap mushrooms, they kill you from the inside out. So your liver fails. So it takes a long time to die. It's not an instant thing. It's not like taking a cyanide tablet or arsenic or whatever, and you're dead within seconds or minutes. It's not. You know, it takes days. Takes days to die, like it did with Erin's victims. It's just awful. You know, it's like a torture, isn't it? Hi. Oh, I was going to say hi, true crime chats. That's me. I was going to say hi to myself there. So yeah, you know, killing you from the inside out like that. I mean, oh, you know, and taking days. It's so sad, isn't it? So sad. Anyway, they were discharged from hospital, but probably they were already a bit like, you know, the mushroom murder people, victims. As soon as they were saying goodbye to Erin, in fact, probably as they were praying with Erin for her to get better from the cancer that she didn't even have, that she'd lied about having, they were like dead people walking, weren't they? They were going to die. They were like, you know, their liver was slowly dying inside them. The death cap mushrooms were taking effect. And even though they were admitted to hospital reasonably quickly, only Ian could be saved. It's terrible. It's terrible. And they went through agony. And that they did, I think Don actually did get a transplant as well, but he didn't survive it. But the two ladies, Heather and Gail, it was decided they were too weak for a transplant and they wouldn't survive the transplant. So they tried to save them as they were, but they were unsuccessful. So it's very, very sad. Very, very sad. Now, similar, sounds very similar with this poor mother and her daughter. So they had been admitted to hospital. The hospital sadly did not identify the ricin straight away, so they must not have given them blood tests, hey? Or would it have turned up in a blood test? Anyway, it's only now that they're dead and they've had an autopsy that laboratory tests reveal the presence of ricin. So, Dr. Vincenzo Cuzzone, head of the intensive care unit at Cardarelli Hospital in nearby Campobasso, told the Italian media that liver failure occurred first and was followed by multi-organ failure at a truly unparalleled speed. And so DeVita and Dielsi's deaths were originally, so they're even using the surnames when they're talking about this now. So it's Anatella and what's her daughter's name? Bless. Anatella and Sarah. Anatella and Sarah, their deaths were initially attributed to medical negligence. And the doctors who discharged them were placed under investigation for manslaughter. Oh my God. And so they should, because if they didn't look deeply enough, if they would have looked deeply enough, like luckily those people in Australia, the medical people in Australia, they were on the ball. At least Ian got saved, didn't he? And also Erin got caught for what she had done. But really, you know, they could have looked further into these cases. You know what the thing is? I think when I know they're not law enforcement, they're medical practitioners, but I think, in my opinion, and maybe it's just because I've been covering true crime now for a couple of years, and it's just the way you end up feeling about things, and you treat things as suspicious until they're proved that they're not suspicious. Not the other way around. Not treat them as not suspicious and until they're proven to be suspicious, because by then a lot of the evidence has been lost, isn't it? If when somebody goes into hospital for food poisoning, maybe should treat it as poisoning to begin with, and then eliminate everything and then eventually say no, it's food poisoning, instead of saying it's food poisoning and then finding out it's actually more sinister than that. Same with crime scenes. They always say, oh, their death is not being treated as suspicious, but I think they could change that way of thinking and just treat all unexplained deaths, anyone who dies, just suddenly, all sudden deaths, treat them all as suspicious until they're proven otherwise. Surely that would be better, wouldn't it? Because then if it is proven to be suspicious, you've collected evidence from the get-go, you've sealed off the crime scene. A lot of the main complaints I think that the public have about the police, isn't it, is they don't seal off crime scenes, or they don't take things seriously from the beginning, or treat things as suspicious from the beginning. So if they turn that on its head and did it the other way round, and then as soon as it's proven, that it's not suspicious, then fine, then you just drop that. Could do it the other way around, couldn't you? We just had recently that young American lad who died in Barcelona. Now, I think the police did look on it as his disappearance. Well, he disappeared first of all, and then it was found that he had fallen into the sea. And then, of course, there's all the conspiracy theories. Somebody pushed him in there, somebody robbed him, somebody did this, somebody did that. But then they found the CCTV and he'd slipped into the sea from the rocks because he'd had a lot to drink, or maybe even taken drugs. And, so it was proven then that it was not suspicious in the sense of nobody pushed him in anyway. There's still people saying, oh, well, maybe he was roofied, or maybe he was. I don't know how you would prove that. I suppose it'd be from the blood tests. But then people say, oh, well, a lot of these drugs, they don't stay in the system for very long. Well, then what are you supposed to do? You can't say, oh, this is a murder inquiry. We think he was roofied. It's like, well, do you have a video of somebody putting something in his drink? Do you have proof? Did he have drugs in his system? Oh, no, we just think he was. Sadly, even though it might be true, that you can't do an investigation on that basis, can you? You've got to have some proof that somebody has slipped something in his drink. So very sad for his family. That their son went on spring break holiday to Barcelona in Spain and should have had a great time and should be back home by now. And sadly, he wasn't to come back because he slipped into the sea, which just shows you how careful you have to be when you're near water. Especially if you've had a drink, because most people who end up in the water didn't mean to go in the water. It's a lot of people slip into water, and if you've had a few drinks or if the water's cold or whatever, it's hard to get out then. So apparently the doctors who discharged them have been placed under investigation for manslaughter. And now they publish the test results carried out at laboratories in Italy and Switzerland. And ricin, a highly toxic chemical, is a poison that is found naturally in castor beans, and ingesting a tiny quantity can cause rapid organ failure and lead to death. There is no known antidote for ricin poisoning. So it seems like even if it would have been diagnosed at the time, there's no antidote. So maybe they couldn't have been saved anyway. But of course, it should have been investigated, shouldn't it? So that this whole thing seems to me uh, uh, I mean, how many people, if the actual registered amount of people who die by homicides due to poisoning is under 5%, is that a genuine reflection? Or, or do people like these people really, they could quite easily have slipped under the radar and it never be known that they are, that they were poisoned? So ricin apparently is a very potent, as it was saying there, it's almost a natural poison. It's found in castor beans, but you wouldn't find enough, if you had some castor beans knocking around and I don't know, you left them for too long and then you ate them, they still that wouldn't poison you. It has to be a highly concentrated amount, it has to have been put together. So I'm just going to put a couple of windows down and then I'm just going to read to you about ricin because it's very interesting. It's been used, let's see, ricin. Yeah. So let me just read. I'm going to put the picture of these unfortunate victims up while I read to you about ricin. Because victims, of course, on this channel, the victims are always the important people, the most important people, aren't they? Where is it? Come on. Oh, sorry, I'm pressing the wrong button. Helps if you, one thing I've learned is it helps if you press the right button, doesn't it? There you go. So this is the lady and her daughter, Donatella and Sarah. 50 years old, Donatella, and Sarah only 15 years old. So let me just read to you about ricin then. So ricin is a highly potent toxin found naturally in castor beans. It is a protein that acts by inhibiting cell metabolism, specifically by preventing cells from producing the proteins they need to survive. This leads to cell death and can result in severe illness or death if exposure occurs. So it can be harmful if it's inhaled, ingested, or injected. The symptoms and their severity depend on the route of exposure and the amount. The route of exposure and the amount. If you inhale it, it can cause respiratory distress, fever, cough, and nausea. If you ingest it, it can lead to severe gastrointestinal intestinal issues, including vomiting and abdominal pain, potentially resulting in organ damage and dehydration. And then with skin and eye contact, although it's less likely to be fatal than other routes, contact can cause redness and pain. Symptoms typically appear within a few hours of exposure, although the exact timing can vary. So there is no specific antidote. Treatment primarily consists of supportive medical care to manage symptoms and stabilize the individual. This may introduce intravenous fluids, respiratory support, or medications to treat seizures or low blood pressure. Well, these poor people, they were discharged from hospital. Dismissed as food poisoning and discharged. So they should have been kept in hospital under surveillance and they might have survived. So due to its extreme toxicity, it's strictly regulated globally under various chemical and biological weapons conventions. Handling the substance or the plants from which it is derived requires specialized training and high-level laboratory safety protocols. If someone suspects they've been exposed to ricin, it's critical to seek emergency medical attention immediately and notify public health or law enforcement authorities. Do not attempt to handle suspicious substances. So now I know that it was used a lot in the Cold War. Let's have a look. Because biological agents are often used, aren't they, with political. So yeah, ricin as a weapon of mass terror. There have been certain high-profile cases involving ricin and its use during the Cold War to assassinate a high-profile communist dissident. So it's interesting, isn't it? Apparently, yeah, recent high-profile cases. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can find any of these cases. I think there was one well, there's certainly been quite a lot of poisoning cases recently. Yeah, so it's all over the news at the moment about this. But anyway, in the UK, oh gosh. Right, so apparently, I'm going to share this actually because it's interesting. So apparently in the UK, the Southport attacker, who I won't mention his name, but you know what I mean, the young lad who murdered those poor little girls in Southport, he had some in his home. Where's he got it from? Would you get it on Amazon or what? Just how could you, surely, if someone's trying to buy ricin or something similar, there's nothing you would need it for apart from to murder someone, is there? So, why are people allowed to buy it? And that guy, he was only 17. So how was he able to buy ricin and have it in his home? He could have poisoned his parents. He could have done anything with that, couldn't he, really? Or he could have used it in an even worse terror attack, if that's possible. Terrible, isn't it? Let's share this. Just saying of some cases, famous cases with ricin. Yeah, I just to me, I think that this could be used, and it could have been used many more times than have actually been found out. And, people have got away with it, do you think? So if a guy like that Southport attacker, a 17-year-old boy who lived at home with his parents, could have ricin in his bedroom, lots of other people could have it, couldn't it? So yeah, UK 2024 well, I won't say his name out loud. Who was accused in the Southport stabbings, convicted, of course, was found to have produced. Oh, he produced it in his home. Oh my God! So what did he do? Buy a load of castor beans and then try anyway. In Norway, 2023, a teenager in Oslo was detained after manufacturing ricin at home, and he reported it himself after exposure. So I suppose in these terrorist training manuals and things that apparently you can get online, it maybe that tells you how to manufacture it. And in the US in 2020, a Canadian woman was arrested for sending a letter containing ricin to President Donald Trump at the White House, which was intercepted before delivery, unfortunately. No, I don't mean that. I don't mean that because it wouldn't probably have been Donald Trump that would have received it anyway. It would have been one of his minions probably that opened his mail for him. So no, I'm not. And even if it was Trump, I would never encourage violence. Even though I can't bear Donald Trump, I'm not encouraging violence. So, but yes. So key facts derived from the waste product of castor bean processing. A potent cytotoxin that inhibits protein synthesis, causing cell death and organ failure. Gastrointestinal symptoms, vomiting, diarrhea, gastrointestinal bleeding, and multi-organ failure. No treatment. No treatment. Sad, isn't it? And scary. It's scary that these things exist, isn't it? Now, of course, poisoning, as it's not a new thing, is it? The Borgias, of course, particularly, was it Lucrezia? No, it was the other one, the mother, wasn't it? Oh, what was the mother's name from the Borgias? Anyway, she was famous for poisoning off her family, wasn't she? Is it Olivia or something like that? Livia. She was, and of course, those poison rings that they used to have in those days, where you'd have those big rings that you would lift the top off and keep your poison in there, just in case you wanted to slip it in someone's drink. I mean, it's crackers, isn't it, really? Yeah. Now, there's been a few cases, and do you know what? I've thought about doing a video. When this came up, it reminded me of a case that I think was a poisoning. But the person has never been charged, or it's never come up. But personally, straight away when I heard about the case, I thought there's something fishy there. I think that woman has been poisoned. But it's never come up, or it's never gone, it's not up to me to pursue that, because it's only a feeling that I've got. It's not because I've got any evidence or anything. Just makes me think, how many people do get poisoned but never get, and the perp never gets caught out, because they go to hospital with. I've had food poisoning. It's bloody horrible. And it's been many years since I've had food poisoning. Many years. I think it was in the UK. I think I had it once here, like in the very early days, nearly 30 years ago when I came to Spain. It's horrible, isn't it? The pain, the vomiting, the diarrhea. You don't know what to do for the best. It's just horrible. Food poisoning is horrible. But imagine, if you'd been poisoned, but you wouldn't even know, and the hospital maybe would not cotton on to the fact that you'd been poisoned. It's quite scary, isn't it, really? So I'm sure there's lots of poisonings going on, that we never get to hear about. And we nearly didn't get to hear about this one, did we? We nearly didn't get to hear about this one at all, because initially it was just treated as a case of food poisoning. Let me just put this picture up. So this is the whole family. Looks like it's at a wedding of some kind. That's the whole family. So it's the husband, the wife Donatella, who didn't survive, and her daughter on the far right, who didn't survive, 15-year-old daughter Sarah. Now, the husband survived, but he was very ill, but he survived. But the other daughter, the older daughter, was not there. And some articles that I've read, and I don't know if she had anything to do with it, but quite in the articles that I wonder if it was this one. Let's have a look at this article. This is an Australian article. Gianni also became ill but survived, but the couple's older daughter was not present when the meal was eaten, a detail now central to the investigation. That's a very sketchy comment, isn't it? So the couple's older daughter was not present when the meal was eaten, which is a detail now central to the investigation. Are they casting shade on the older daughter? Do you think? This is the older daughter here. Well, of course, they all look really happy there in that photo, but that's always the case, isn't it? You know, in photos, this looks like the daughters were they bridesmaids at a wedding of some kind. They've got similar dresses on. And yeah, as I say, from what I was reading, with poisonings, it's nearly always friends or family. So he says, so the mayor, the current mayor said, we are a small community and everyone has always got on with each other. There has never been any tension. Mayor Antonio Tomazoni said, we are like family. We trust the investigators, but we are struggling to believe this was anything but an accidental death. And friends of Sarah, that's the young girl 15, they spoke to the teenager on Boxing Day, just hours before her condition went downhill. We last spoke to Sarah on Boxing Day over the phone. She believed the heavy treatment at the hospital would be sufficient, and she didn't expect her condition to deteriorate. And this is her Sarah, and Sarah is no longer with us, 15 years old. Very beautiful girl, a whole life stolen from her. Terrible. So what do you make of this? Be interesting to see what comes out. It's got to be somebody close to the family, really, because how could they put it in the meal? You know, how could they get that poison in that food? Was it in a sauce jar? I mean, thing is, if you really wanted to poison your family member, probably wouldn't be that difficult if you could get your hands on the ricin, because just say they like mayonnaise, you just have to put it in the mayonnaise, wouldn't you? Or I don't know, something that you knew that they particularly liked, and just make sure you don't drink any of it, really, wouldn't it? Because I don't believe that it can be the father, because I know he survived, unless but he couldn't have given himself. With these things, you couldn't just give yourself a tiny amount of them and hope for the best that you didn't die. That's why, like with Erin, I don't think Erin had any of those death cap mushrooms, none. She had a completely separate dish that had no death cap mushrooms in them. And that's what she gave the children for leftovers as well, wasn't it? Like to cover her tracks in a way. But there's no way you could take a chance of just giving a tiny bit, just to make yourself a little bit ill, because, these kind of things, you just don't know what effect they're going to take. So I think whoever did this, yeah, they deliberately did it so that they would all take it. And I think Gianni has just been lucky enough to survive. Maybe he didn't eat as much of it. Maybe it's because he's a man. Maybe he's heavier. Yeah. Anyway, there was something else I just wanted to. Let me just put some windows down. There was something else I was going to read. Oh, yeah. So the poisoning. Statistics on poisoning. So homicidal poisoning. Apparently, this is according to AI Google. So I'm just telling you that. I'm just reading it off the internet. According to the internet, AI on the internet. Where's it gone? Lost it. I need to put more windows down. Got too many windows open. Yeah, homicidal poisoning is one of the rarest forms of murder today, typically accounting for less than 1%. I thought it was 5%. So that's really tiny number of homicides. But because symptoms often mimic natural diseases, experts believe that the true number of poison murders may be higher than recorded due to cases that evade detection. I think that's got to be true. I bet there's a load more poisoning cases that just go undetected. And the thing is, you just wouldn't know until they were detected, would you? But a few cases that I've either seen videos about, true crime videos, and even one that I reported on. So there was a case in, that was an Asian country. What was it? Which one? Anyway, a friend poisoned her friend's coffee. So she got her friend a coffee while she was waiting for her friends. Friends walked into the coffee shop. She gave the friend the coffee with some poison in it, and within a couple of minutes of drinking the coffee, the friend was dead of a seizure. And the only reason, luckily, it was found out is, it's like one of those with friends like this who needs enemies, was luckily the person that worked in the coffee shop kept the dregs of the coffee to one side, and so the coffee was tested, and I think it was arsenic it had in it. Let's have a look. And that was a jealousy killing. I'll say I do have a video somewhere on my channel about it. That was it. So Wayan Myrna Salihin was the poor lady that was murdered. And the person who murdered her was Australian, Jessica Kumala Wong So, and it was in Vietnam. Oh, Jakarta. She laced her iced coffee with cyanide, not arsenic. And it was all caught on CCTV in the cafeteria. And oh my God, she was sentenced to 20 years. And this was in 2016. But she was released on parole in 2024. Oh, God. What? She was released on parole in 2024. So I suppose. Oh no, so she shouldn't have been coming out till 2036. Why do these murderers literally get away with murder? Is it probably for good behaviour? Anyway, so that happened in January 2016. She pre-ordered a nice coffee for her friend, and it was later found to contain a lethal dose of cyanide. Now, that would not have been identified, except luckily the coffee worker, the cafe worker, put the coffee to one side and it was tested, because if that would have, gone into the bin or disappeared or whatever, she probably would never have been found out, would she? Like you say, Mark, yeah, no time, no justice. What have you got to do to get a proper life sentence? I mean, that is callous what she did. When you think about it, it wasn't a rage killing. It wasn't in the heat of the moment. She planned it. She bought the coffee for her friend. She invited her for the coffee. She was waiting for her. While she was waiting for her, she put the cyanide in there. She knew what it was going to do to her. How could you get more callous and cold? And that's because her friend had married who she was in love with. And she was so happy. She was happy, or she was about to get married. She just took all that away, not only from her, but from her fiance, and she's got out in 10 years, less than 10 years. Terrible. If you were the family of that victim, you'd be fuming, wouldn't you? You'd be heartbroken. It's like a double murder of your child to me. That's like you're going through it all again, and it's a double assault on your child's memory, because not only that woman murdered her, but then the state didn't care enough about her to keep her in prison. Oh, God. It makes me so angry. Anyway, so apparently in the United States, poisoning accounts for approximately 0.38% to 0.5% of all homicides. And a study of FBI data identified 523 homicidal poisoning deaths over a 7-year period. So not many, is it? But God, it feels like there's been loads lately. There's been quite a few lately of high. There's somebody who, there's a lot of them with poisoning with antifreeze. I've heard of a lot. And then there was a famous case of somebody who poisoned their partner with eye drops. Putting something in there. I suppose if you put ricin in eye drops, that's not going to be very nice, is it? And then there's one just literally recently, I think she's just been found guilty just recently. Tends to be women who commit crimes with poison. Tends to be, but that's just the tendency. Japan statistics from 73 to 92 showed poisonings made up about 0.5% of homicides. In India, the prevalence is higher, from 0.3 to 3.7% of homicides, and China 3.5 to 5%. And the victims is most frequently used against the most vulnerable populations, specifically infants and the elderly. And I'm just coming to realise lately that the most vulnerable populations are always infants or children and the elderly and animals, aren't they? These horrible twonks that do these terrible things, that get their kicks from doing terrible things. If they can't get people to do it, they'll do it to animals. But if they want to do it to people, they'll more likely do it to children and elderly people, because they're the easiest victims, aren't they? Then women will be the next one. Anyway, this is unusual. This is what I was saying. So unlike many other violent crimes, poisoners almost always know their victims well. Family members are the most common perpetrators. And common agents used, classical poisons like arsenic and cyanide are still used, but modern cases often involve medications, sedatives, analgesics, antipsychotics, and household chemicals such as antifreeze. Carbon monoxide remains the most frequently observed lethal agent in many forensic reports. And gender dynamics show that while men commit more murders in total, women are statistically 7 to 10 times more likely than men to choose poison as their weapon when they do commit murder. Interesting. Very interesting. So yeah, the recent one in April this month, Judy Church. I haven't reported on this case. She's just been sentenced to life in prison for the first-degree murder of her boyfriend using antifreeze. That's literally just happened. Yeah, very interesting. So, yeah. Let me know what you think, of course. And as far as this case is concerned, now we've got to say it might be, a murder investigation has been launched. That's unusual in itself, isn't it? They're like, where's this ricin come from? Ricin just doesn't appear naturally in people's bodies. So somebody has poisoned this family, and these two ladies sadly have died because of it. Maybe I should do a series on poisoning cases. God, I'm going to, trouble with doing true crime channels. Not only now I'm too terrified to go out and walk the dog in a lonely place or whatever, you're too scared to go everywhere. Now I'm too scared to eat meals that anybody else has cooked for me. Need a food. See, that was why in Roman times, of course, they did have food testers, didn't they? And I don't know if you know, but like in Russia, Putin, he won't eat or drink anything that anybody gives him. I expect he prepares his own everything. Because poisoning is quite common, isn't it, in those sort of environments, if you like. The poison. It's horrible, isn't it? Because it's always horrible. I mean, killing anyone is horrible. But I'd say poisoning has got to always involve a level of planning. And when people plan to kill, that's always the worst, isn't it? When not because somebody has lost control briefly, or they just can't take any more because of whatever the circumstances are. Someone has literally planned, and maybe, like Erin Patterson, sat and watched people eat what she knew was going to kill them. And it seems like maybe in this case that's not the case, but somebody put that poison in the food somehow. Was it in a sauce? Was it in a bottle of wine? I saw a Columbo episode years ago. I bloody love Columbo. I love watching Columbo. And, it's, of course, it's interesting to watch now, just to see the old sort of, the fact that he was smoking and everything, the old telephones and when the first mobile phones came out and that. It's interesting from a historical point of view now. God, I don't know what Columbo would have made of. They should make Columbo again, but a modern version of it. Like he'd be like, oh, what's the triangulation? What's the triangulation? What's the blood spattering? Columbo would be like, what? But I think they could remake Columbo. I think they should, because people loved it, and still love it. It's still on the telly and whatever. People still watch. And at the end of the day, I watched one once where this guy had put poison in a syringe and injected it into a bottle of wine. Won't stop me drinking wine, that's for sure. It won't stop me drinking wine, but you should just think, God, the thing is, when someone wants to kill someone, their inventiveness knows no bounds, does it? It's like, bloody hell, can't drink a bottle of wine, even though the cork was it was an unopened, unsealed, but they'd injected it in through the cork. Oh my God, there's no limit to what people will do to each other, is there? Anyway, I hope whatever happens, there's justice for these two ladies. It's terrible. Both young. I mean, not one especially young. 15 years old, the daughter, but 50 is too young, isn't it? Any age is too young to be murdered. Nobody has the right to take it. Only God has the right to take lives, and he doesn't have the right to take lives. But you know what I mean? When natural occurrences happen, but nobody has the right to take somebody else's life just because it suits them, for their own purposes, for whatever, whether it's money reasons or just because they don't like that person, or they're jealous of that person, or they just want that person out of the way. Maybe one day in a video, that's what we should look at, all the different motives that you have for murder. Motives for murder, they're the tiniest things, like it'd be a big thing. Like it could be somebody kills somebody because they feel like they're at danger from them, or maybe they've been abused for years, or they feel in imminent danger themselves. And then you've got other people. Sometimes people just kill for the smallest reason. They just don't want to deal with that person anymore, or custody disputes are a big thing, aren't they? They're a very common reason for murder. And of course, breakups. People can't accept when their partner leaves them and wants to be with someone else, or even doesn't want to be with anyone else, just doesn't want to be with them. They can't accept it. That's a common reason as well, of course. So yeah, can be the craziest reason that you can imagine, that we could never get our head around. Yeah. Okay, let me know as always what you think about this case. Please don't forget to like, to subscribe. I'll keep you posted. I've got lots of other cases that I want to talk to you about. There's always a case to talk about, isn't there? There's always something to talk about. Just not enough hours in the day, really, to talk about them all. But yeah, let's hope for justice for Donatella and Sarah. And if it is, this shade being cast at the other sister, is it something to do with her? It's definitely something to do with the family or someone close to them. Now, Gianni, he was ill too, but he did survive. So really, it's got to be either him or her, hasn't it? That's how it feels. Who else would have been in a position to put ricin in their meal? Anyway, let me know what you think, as always. And yeah, thanks again. Look after you, because you are the most important person. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Thank you.